All right. So, just real quick, I had some things I had to say that is extremely important. Okay. It's concerning marriage and fornication. All right. With marriage being um, a contract from God, this is what's really important about when it comes to fornication, which is the truth. All right. But there are some things I need to show you for people to understand more clearly. All right. This article actually goes into um, a good, valid point, and I'll expand on it later.
So what is the truth about having sex outside of marriage? The truth is that we are having the wrong conversation over and over again. In an attempt to justify what is believed to be common knowledge, we are pulling at any verse that has an inkling of resemblance to premarital sex. We are using these verses, devoid of their context and circumstance, in order to justify a belief that does not have much merit. Many source the Ten Commandments as a call to wait until we are married to have sex. In particular, the seventh of these commandments: "Thou shalt not commit adultery." The problem here is that adultery and premarital sex are being equated, when in reality, they are two distinctly different things. Adultery really is about violation of relationship or violation of contract. It's about not keeping your promise. Dr. Colleen Wyndham Hughes, a professor of religion at California Lutheran University, said, "An important part about reading the Bible is understanding those circumstances under which it was written and how it can be applied to today's society." What is written about sex before marriage in the Bible comes predominantly from the book of 1 Corinthians, written by Paul. 1 Corinthians 6:18-20 says, "Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body." This verse.
So this portion of that belief and understanding of adultery is precisely correct. And to keep in mind that man is part animal and part flesh, which is understood very clearly and brought out in Ecclesiastes 3.
"I have also seen this under the sun. In the place of justice there was wickedness, and in the place of righteousness there was wickedness. So I said in my heart, the true God will judge both the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every activity and every action. I also said in my heart about the sons of men, that the true God will test them and show them that they are like animals. For there is an outcome for humans and an outcome for animals. They all have the same outcome. As the one dies, so the other dies, and they all have but one spirit. So man has no superiority over animals, for everything is futile."
This portion goes into how women view men. Like, this is why, like, the muscular side, basically two main things: having muscles and, and basically not being in her face. Those are the two things that get women the most. I mean, just keeping it 100. And then on the other side, it's for guys, it's, just being pretty and, very simple. This is the animalistic side of humans. People try to make it more complex than it is. It's not complex. It's 100% about looks. I'm just keeping it 100. But the spiritual side of things and of people need to understand that not to get your ego, or what they would call your jealousy, in the way of a person, to the point where it chokes out how a person chokes out or create a sin or harm for a person. You know what I mean? It chokes out the love in that one.
Awaken or arouse love in me until it feels inclined. The sound of my dear one. Look, here he comes, climbing the mountains, leaping over the hills. My dear one is like a gazelle, like a young stag. There he is, standing behind our wall, gazing through the windows, looking through the lattices.
3.
Upon my bed during the nights, I sought the one I love. I sought him, but I did not find him. I will arise and roam the city. In the streets and in the public squares, let me seek the one I love. I sought him, but I did not find him. The watchmen making their rounds in the city found me. Have you seen the one I love? Scarcely had I passed by them when I found the one I love. I held on to him. I would not let him go until I brought him into my mother's house, into the interior room of her who conceived me.
Now, respecting fornication, you can have two people that are looking to be married, that are inflamed in passion, and from what I understand is that if it is handled improperly, meaning that they start to have sex before marriage, if they go ahead and get married, then it's no sin. So the important issue of that is that fornication could actually exist, but not exist based on the forsaking of that relationship. This is the important thing of fornication. That is what breaks the bond, is forsaking. That is what the fornication or sexual immorality is. It doesn't mean to be loose about everything that you do, but it does mean that the real sin is not there. If anything, you're sinning against your own flesh.
If anyone is worried that he might not be acting honorably toward the virgin he is engaged to, and if his passions are too strong and he feels he ought to marry, he should as he wants. He is not sinning. They should get married.
Now that we got that out the way, keeping it 100, I'm going to let you see the entire scripture from top to bottom, and why it's important to actually work with what you have with the woman you're with or with the man you're with. It's better to work with them because everything has to do with that agreement. So what I originally was stating was that it is all in the agreement. That is what causes the sin. All right? Or all of these fallacies that come about in our everyday life. Facts.
Chapter 7. Now concerning the things about which you wrote, it is better for a man not to touch a woman. But because of the prevalence of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and each woman have her own husband. Let the husband give to his wife her due, and let the wife also do likewise to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but her husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but his wife does. Do not deprive each other, except by mutual consent for an appointed time, so that you may devote time to prayer and may come together again, in order that Satan may not keep tempting you for your lack of self-control. However, I say this by way of concession, not as a command. But I wish all men were as I am. Nevertheless, each one has his own gift from God, one in this way, another in that way. Now I say to those who are unmarried, and to the widows, that it is better for them if they remain as I am. But if they do not have self-control, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to be inflamed with passion. To the married people I give instructions, not I, but the Lord, that a wife should not separate from her husband. But if she does separate, let her remain unmarried, or else be reconciled with her husband. And a husband should not leave his wife. But to the others I say, yes, I, not the Lord, if any brother has an unbelieving wife, and she is agreeable to staying with him, let him not leave her. And if a woman has an unbelieving husband, and he is agreeable to staying with her, let her not leave her husband. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified in relation to his wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified in relation to the brother. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. But if the unbelieving one chooses to depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not bound under such circumstances, but God has called you to peace. For wife, how do you know whether you will save your husband? Or husband, how do you know whether you will save your wife? Nevertheless, just as Jehovah has given each one a portion, let each one so walk as God has called him. And so I give this directive in all the congregations. Was any man already circumcised when he was called? Let him not undo his circumcision. Has any man been called while uncircumcised? Let him not get circumcised. Circumcision means nothing, and uncircumcision means nothing. What means something is the observing of God's commandments. In whatever state each one was called, let him remain in it. Were you called when a slave? Do not let it concern you. But if you can become free, then seize the opportunity. For anyone who was called in the Lord when a slave is the Lord's freedman. Likewise, anyone who was called when a free man is a slave of Christ. You were bought with a price. Stop becoming slaves of men. In whatever state each one was called, brothers, let him remain in it before God. Now concerning virgins, I have no command from the Lord, but I give my opinion as one who had mercy shown him by the Lord to be faithful. Therefore, I think that it is best for a man to continue as he is, in view of the present difficulty. Are you bound to a wife? Stop seeking a release. Are you freed from a wife? Stop seeking a wife. But even if you did marry, you would commit no sin. And if a virgin married, such a person would commit no sin. However, those who do will have tribulation in their flesh, but I am trying to spare you. Moreover, this I say, brothers, the time left is reduced. From now on, let those who have wives be as though they had none, and those who weep as those who do not weep, and those who rejoice as those who do not rejoice, and those who buy as those who do not possess, and those making use of the world as those not using it to the full. For the scene of this world is changing. Indeed, I want you to be free from anxiety. The unmarried man is anxious for the things of the Lord, how he may gain the Lord's approval. But the married man is anxious for the things of the world, how he may gain the approval of his wife, and he is divided. Further, the unmarried woman, as well as the virgin, is anxious for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in her body and in her spirit. However, the married woman is anxious for the things of the world, how she may gain the approval of her husband. But I am saying this for your personal advantage, not to restrict you, but to move you to what is appropriate, and to constant devotion to the Lord without distraction. But if anyone thinks he is behaving improperly by remaining unmarried, and if he is past the bloom of youth, then this is what should take place. Let him do what he wants. He does not sin. Let them marry. But if anyone stands settled in his heart, and has no necessity, but has authority over his own will, and has made the decision in his own heart to remain unmarried, he will do well. So also whoever marries does well, but whoever does not marry will do better. A wife is bound as long as her husband is alive. But if her husband should fall asleep in death, she is free to be married to whomever she wants, only in the Lord. But in my opinion, she is happier if she remains as she is, and I certainly think I also have God's Spirit.